Hello friends, welcome to ixamBee. I am Manali, and as we all know, the SBI Clerk 2021 notification is out, and we are all so excited to help you in your journey, right? So today we're going to talk about certain preparation strategy, especially for the English language section. So what is our agenda for this video? We're going to start off with discussing the question paper structure. Then we're going to look at the core content areas, and then we will discuss the main strategies, right? So the first thing that you need to remember when you start with your preparation is to be systematic. If you are haphazard, if you're disorganized, if you do not know what you are doing, then your focus will be affected. You will not be able to concentrate. You will be rambling, looking for things that are irrelevant, and that will affect your preparation. The first thing that you need to remember is to focus and be systematic. And after that, create a routine, a schedule, which will help you to fall into a pattern, right? Let's start off by looking at the question paper structure. So, you must be knowing that the English language section has 30 questions, and you need to work them out in 20 minutes, right? Broadly speaking, that's the main thing that we need to remember. There is something else. We do have negative marking, right? So you need to remember that as well. So our target should be to score that 30 on 30. That should be our bullseye. Now, that is not impossible. That is not difficult, but that needs little bit of consistency, that needs a little bit of hard work, but it is perfectly achievable. The question is how? Let's move ahead and let's take a look at the core content areas. So before you start preparing for your exam, you need to do a little bit of homework, and you need to find out what is it that you are dealing with. For example, here we are talking about the SBI Clerk 2021 exam. So we start off from scratch. We look at the question paper. So our bullseye is those 30 questions. I have 20 minutes in my hand. So one thing from this that you can understand is that you need to be prompt while you're answering. So speed will be an important factor. Keeping this in mind, next should be what should you study, or what content should you focus on. Okay, so the content area is very similar to other government exams when it comes to the English language section. So we have grammar, we have vocabulary, we have reading comprehension, we have cloze test, error spotting, idioms, phrases, sentence rearrangement, fill in the blanks, misspelled words, or sentence paragraph completion. And there may be other types or other variations also possible. But broadly speaking, this would be your core content area, right? Now, if you look at the core content areas very, very carefully, you will understand we are basically talking about the main pillars of English language. What are we looking at? We are basically looking at grammar, vocabulary, reading comprehension. This should be the main area of focus. Now you might ask me, what about the rest? This is basically an application of the concepts that you will be learning here. So this would be your concept area, and this would be your application-based area. Yes, so as with any exam, strengthening your concepts is the way to move ahead, right? So now the next question is, now what are the strategies? How should you start? What should you look at? What should you be working on? right? The first thing should be you need to prepare a checklist, right? Like I said, you need to create a schedule. You need to prepare a checklist. Now, what should be there on your checklist? That checklist should have your strength and weaknesses. Now, what do I mean when I say strength and weaknesses? For example, you are someone who can read a passage and understand the meaning very fast. So, reading comprehension will be your forte, your area of strength. Also, you will be able to handle parajumbles very well because they also involve a lot of comprehension. But you might be someone who might be very vague or not clear when it comes to concepts related to tenses. So you need to work on that. So you need to have in front of you a list of your strengths and weaknesses because we will be working according to that. That would be your blueprint. If you do not have that, then you do not know what you should be working on. Yes, in that case, you will be losing focus. You will be working on things that you already know, but when it comes to areas of deficit, areas that need a little more work, you will be missing out on that, right? The next thing, concept and practice. Which one should you prioritize? Now, that is up to you. If you think you do not understand where you should be using past perfect tense or where you should be using present continuous tense, that is a problem with your concepts. In that case, you should go back to the basics. There are many videos from our channel that you can see on YouTube. You can take a look at those videos. You can clear your concepts. But, for example, when you're working out a parajumble passage, you realize I can work it out, but I am not being able to complete it on time. In that case, what you need is more practice, right? So that needs to be decided that which one should you prioritize. It can be a balanced approach. But for that, again, let's go back to our strength and weaknesses. So, whatever you do, whatever approach you take, everything is dependent on this checklist. You have to find out which one you should prioritize, which one is your strength, and what are the areas of your weakness, right? That brings us to the third strategy, grammar. Any application based concept question that you will get in any government exam will be always based on basic grammatical rules. Now, when I talk about basic grammatical rules, I will be talking mainly about four pillars: tenses, parts of speech, subject verb agreement, and preposition. You cannot prepare for any exam without brushing up on your knowledge related to basic grammatical concepts. If you neglect these, your application, your question answers, your grammar based questions, that will be affected. You will not be able to answer them when it comes to, for example, questions that are fundamentally fillers. Spot the errors. They are always based on grammar rules. That can be subject verb agreement, that can be use of correct preposition, that can be use of tenses, right? So you cannot neglect the four pillars. You have to revise these and apply these. Revision itself is not enough. So you need to go back, take a look at the concepts, but if you think you are comfortable when it comes to concepts, let you move on to practice. You have to practice. There can be no alternative for practice when it comes to grammar, right? Now, after the four pillars, what's the next thing? The next thing would be vocabulary. Now, vocabulary can be anywhere and everywhere. It can come as fillers, it can come as closed test. Vocabulary is there in comprehension. Vocabulary, you're using vocabulary when you're talking, when you're reading, when you're writing, when you're studying. So vocabulary is a huge, big umbrella. Misspelled words, that's also the part of your vocabulary. Now, how should you approach a vocabulary? The first thing is to read, 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 and read. You have to read. Whatever you can lay your hands on, you have to read. The more you read, the better it is. But after reading, try to take down, note certain important words. Then the next step should be learning not only that word. For example, let's take a look at the word abject, right? You find out the meaning of the word abject. Don't stop here. Try to move on and try to find out the synonyms, find out the antonyms, find out the adjective form, find out the noun form, right? So, in that way, your vocabulary is expanding. It is expanding. That is what we need. So, you should read, note down the important words, learn the different variations of that word, the different forms of that word, and then finally you have to use those words. So again, we come back to the main mantra: practice. You have to practice using those words, applying those words in the right context, because many questions come in spot the errors when we talk about incorrect words being used in the context. So that doesn't make any sense. So in order to identify that carefully, you have to strengthen when it comes to vocabulary. What's the next thing on our agenda? Reading and comprehension. Reading and comprehension. So the main key when you're talking about reading and comprehension is that you cannot get stuck with a specific question. You have to move ahead. You cannot get stuck. If you get stuck, you are wasting out on precious time. The next thing, remember, there is nothing outside the text. Whatever you're talking about, your questions, your answer, there is nothing outside the text. So try to find out your answer in the text. The next thing, process of elimination. Try to eliminate the incorrect answers. Try to eliminate your incorrect answers. Okay, so that will help you to pinpoint the right answer. Now, reading and comprehension is everywhere. So when you're reading your questions, you have to read your questions, you have to comprehend the meaning. Only then you will be able to rearrange the sentences when it comes to a para jumble or when you need to fill in the blanks. So you need to read and you need to comprehend. The second last step is accuracy. You can improve your accuracy if you read the question carefully. The better you read, the better you will understand the directions, and the better you will be able to work out on that. If you do not pay attention when you read the instructions, you will not be able to answer the question, or you will end up making errors. And the last part, speed. Now, speed is related to practice and how comfortable you are when it comes to concepts and their application. So all these strategies are interlinked. You cannot do by skipping one of these strategies or by neglecting one of these strategies, right? So I hope these strategies were useful. You will try to implement all these strategies, practice well, relax, stay safe, and all the best for your exam. Thank you. We'll be back soon. Stay tuned.